Hello and welcome again to One Starfish, where our mission is to help change the world one person or one starfish at a time. As always, guys, make sure to rate, review, subscribe, share. This is how we get the word out about what we do. And our amazing guests, so our guest today, Liz, and I just met. She is in Florida, and she is an organizational leadership coaching consultant. She's been doing that for a long time. Let's just say a long time. It's pretty cool. And welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, let's get into what got you started as a leadership consultant. You would have been quite young, actually, I would
Yeah,
imagine, at the time that you started, based
very.
on how long ago it was, and you look very young. So, like, that would have been really young. What
Uh,
got you into that?
yeah, actually, so we'll give a little bit of background on where I picked up the skill set. First is I learned very early in my age of teenagers, because teenagers know everything and we're stubborn.
Of course.
Of having money meant I had freedom, right? Because if I had money as a teenager, I could put gas in the gas tank of the car, and if I could put gas in the gas tank of the car, I could go places, right? So I connected very early that money meant freedom, and so I became a very hard worker very early. And by the time I was 18 years old and 19 years old, I was running a store, retail management store. I had been promoted to store manager. I had 25 employees, overseeing a couple $1 million in revenue at 18, 19 years old. Like I was, to your point, a child. But I got all that education, right? How to lead, how to actually manage profit and loss statements, what inventory flows look like, how to balance this, how to promote people. So I picked up a lot of skill set, and I had great mentors in that career very early on. And so by the time I was 23, I decided to launch my own business independently, starting as a solopreneur and exiting the retail industry. And I learned a whole nother lesson there, that it's one thing to be running a business that's already established with rules and guidelines and infrastructure in it in a Fortune 500 company. And it's a whole nother thing to take a dream off the kitchen counter and build it independently into something from the ground up. And so I learned a lot of lessons the hard way, right? I knew the things to do. I knew how to grow a business, but what I really struggled with was, how do I actually make it not run my life? Because when you're starting your own business, you have to put in hours and you've got to put in effort. And I'd always been such a hard worker. So I looked at it and I'm like, more hours, more time. I'll get past this season, right? And I kept going and going and going. And sooner or later I found myself having panic attacks in the middle of the night because I was hearing my phone ring, but it was on the other side of the house, right? I couldn't even get rid of my problems for my business in my sleep. And it was just crushing. It was like a prison that I had built myself into, which is ironic because what I wanted was more freedom and control in my life instead of being subject to somebody else's business and having to move to get a better opportunity and to make more money, having to take up and pack up boxes and move across the state, right? And so I found out very early that those are two different beasts on there. And so what I started doing was fixing my own right away, right? I was like, okay, something's got to give. So I just started absorbing every piece of information I could. And, this was 2008, 2009, when the economy crashed and we were in the Great Recession at that point. And so I was just taking anything I could get. And that was mostly books, seminars, leadership, mentors, anything there, and absorbing it. And what I realized is, while I thought I was the only person having this struggle, I quickly learned that I wasn't. And so since I had absorbed all of this stuff to fix my own business, and I had this other unique skill set coming from my previous career, I looked around and I went, I can help all these other entrepreneurs too. And that's how I kind of ended up into this realm. So about 2010, after I'd fixed mine, gotten things steady, uh, started sleeping again, which was wonderful. I really stepped into organizational leadership to help other entrepreneurs.
Awesome. And what have you found over the years? I mean, that's been 10, 20 years almost,
Yeah.
16
Almo
years anyway. Yeah.
almost 2 decades of being an entrepreneur at this point
Yeah.
is, everyone thinks their problems are unique. It's so interesting. When I talk to entrepreneurs, they don't want to admit that they all have these problems. They look at it and they're like, "How did you know? I feel like, do you have cameras in my office?" The early readers of the book I just wrote are like, "I feel like you're literally sitting next to me watching me. How is this possible?" And it's because it's the same patterns. It doesn't matter the industry, it doesn't matter when you started it. The same things happen because at the end of the day, it comes down to how we lead, how we manage the business, what the processes and systems look like, and how we develop the people inside of it. And one of the people inside of it is ourselves. And it's just a whole different ball game. And so there's actually not a lot of uniqueness to running a business, right? We all think it's special. We all think it's different than the next one, but the reality is it's not. Behind the scenes, behind the curtains, the stuff we don't talk about, we all kind of go through the same struggles, and yet we feel so alone. It's one of the reasons I think people say it's lonely at the top and it's lonely building a business is because we make it lonely because we think it's just us.
Mm. So what do you give for recommendations if someone's listening to this and they've started a business or they're already, I don't know, a couple of years in or wherever they're at? What's like a first step that is you talk to someone to analyze on, how to become free at their business at some point?
Well, the first thing you have to look at and understand is, again, this isn't actually unique, and there is help, support, and communities out there. So the first thing you need is awareness. You're ideally gaining that now through listening to this podcast of, wait, there is a way out of this. The second thing is to understand that every business that becomes successful, especially entrepreneurs, goes through four very distinct phases as it develops. The first phase is where we all started, that solopreneur party of one, right? Where we are literally everything. We are the person running the marketing, we are the customer service line, we are the facilitator of the product. It's just us. And everyone starts there, right? Kitchen tables piled with dishes and dreams, corners of the office after hours, and that's really normal. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with starting there, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with staying there if that's who you want to be and what you want to do. But the reality of that phase is that it doesn't scale. And so you've got yourself a good job that you can control, but you have a job. And frankly, you have a lot of them because you're managing so many different parts. And that will hit a ceiling of income, opportunity, and potential no matter what. It's inevitable, it hits. Then the second phase, and this is where I think most people actually get stuck, is what I call task leverage, right? You decide you're going to move out of solopreneur, you make your first hire, and people are executing the tasks that you do. We might come to you and say, "Hey, Angela, can you run the reports for ABC?" Great. You run the reports, you bring them back to me, and that is relief, right? Because for the first time in my business, I didn't have to do the thing. And it's like, wow, I can breathe a little bit better. And so what happens is we're getting incremental gains back here, right? I hand off 30 minutes of work to you. I might be getting back 20 minutes because I'm still managing the process, making the decisions, explaining to you what to do. But those incremental gains matter and they help. This is a necessary phase. But the challenge is that this isn't real leverage and it's not true freedom. It's just relief, right?
Mm,
Because this doesn't scale. And what happens when we're not trained on what these models look like and we don't know is that we treat that like the thing we should scale. And what ends up happening is, ooh, I hired this one person and I got this much relief from it. I'll hire another one and get more. And then I'll hire another one and get more. But remember, I said you're only getting incremental gains. And if I hand off 30 minutes of work, I'm only probably getting 20 back. That's because I'm still spending about a third of the time managing the process, the outcomes, the path, and everything there. So if I scale that with people, I don't actually have time to do my job anymore because I'm just the help desk answering questions for those people, managing those people, guiding those people.
mm,
And so all that work of business strategy and vision and sourcing clients, which is your highest dollar per hour activity, no matter what industry you're in, is slowly shrinking. And that's when we find ourselves, just like I was, going, I don't even have time to get things done. Well, I guess I'll just work longer hours. I guess I won't take weekends off. I guess I will stay up after the kids go to bed tonight and be on my computer, right? That's how it happens. The challenge is that's where most people stop and they start scaling there. But there's two more phases that businesses go through to become successful. And we've got to learn how to bridge the gap because to bridge the gap to the third phase is when freedom actually starts showing up. And freedom comes with what I call talent leverage. Talent leverage is when people are not only owning the result, they're owning the outcome, but they're designing the path. So it's not just that they're executing something, they're truly owning the entire activity, the outcome for it, and the responsibility, which takes mental load management off of us. So now instead of managing processes and systems, we're actually leading people. And that's a huge differential to go between the second phase and the third phase. But if we scale at second phase, that's where so many people feel buried and alone and overworked and burnt out in their business.
So how do you get to that third phase?
I It's a shift in our behavior, and we always say that people are the problem, but people are also the solution. The plot twist on that is it's not just other people, it's us as
Right.
people. Because you're going through different phases and your identity and your job actually changes as you go through these, right? Think about that beginning phase, solopreneur, when you're at no leverage. You are literally everything. It does take a lot of hard work. It does take a lot of tactical, technical things of actually delivering the product. And your work as the owner and the leader is incredibly minimal because the only thing that you need to lead is you getting up every day and doing the job, right? It's
Right.
different. When we move into that second phase of task leverage, we are now managing somebody else. We're not quite leading them yet, right? Because we're still managing the processes and the systems that they're simply the hands executing. And so this turns into almost a managerial phase. When we get to the third phase, this is when we really have to look at the business like a business, even if you've only got one employee. This isn't about the number of people in your world. It's about having that person own the outcomes. This is when we really become the leader. We start focusing on those ownership activities, the vision, the strategy, slowing down and coaching people and giving them boundaries to live with inside of without jumping in and correcting them at the first time something went wrong or that we see them going down the wrong path, right? We're close enough to observe to make sure nothing detrimental is happening, but we're far enough to give them space to learn and to develop inside of their roles. And there's a unique shift that happens there. And that shift in our identity of the role that we play also translates into the way that we show up and the way people perceive us. I'll give you a great example. This one's really easy for people to understand because it's an at-home thing, so almost every one of us can understand it. There's a difference in if I say at task leverage, "I need you to take out the trash today." Okay? Great. I tell somebody I need them to take out the trash. How many of us have said that, right? I
Mhm.
say that all the time. And then we come home at 4 o'clock from work and we're like, "Why isn't the trash taken out? I asked you to take out the trash."
One thing.
Yeah, one thing. I asked you one thing, but it didn't get done to my expectation, right? So now I look at it and I'm like, "Ugh, I need to tell you exactly how to do this and what this is. And
Mm,
okay, so I guess I'll just do it myself." And I take it back, right? And I'm like, "I'll take out the trash." This happens all the time in our businesses too. We tell
yes.
somebody a vague description of something that we need done, and then we don't give them context or the desired outcome or why we need it to happen, and they fail us on our expectations, and so we take it back and we say, "Well, I guess I'll just have to do it myself." And at task leverage, this happens a lot because up until this point, everything is lived in our head. We knew why it was important when to take the trash out and how to do it and where we store the trash bags, but they didn't.
Mm.
And it's unlikely that you've got an operations manual at that point. But in talent leverage, right, when we're actually teaching them to own the outcomes, the conversation looks different, but it's the transition to get there, the bridge that is unique. So let's take the same example of task leverage, take out the trash. To develop somebody into talent leverage, I have to convey the context of that activity. I have to tell them the desired outcome, and I have to help them understand why and when. Okay. So task leverage, I tell them that, they fail it. I'm frustrated. This is annoying. I'll just take the trash out. It takes 5 minutes. But if I really want to develop them, I would say something along the lines of, "Hey, I need you to take the trash out. It needs to happen every day by 10 a.m. because the trash truck comes by at 11. The dumpster is behind the building in the office. And if it's overloaded, we have to use the overfill cans next to it. We want to do this to make sure that we're providing a clean environment when the business opens at 10 a.m. And we don't want any morning stinky onion bagels or anything in there because we don't want the clients to have a bad experience when they're coming in for their meetings. Do you have any questions?" And they're going to go, "No, that makes sense. Great." Right? Because I've conveyed the context,
Mm.
why it's important. I don't want stinky trash in at 10 a.m. when we open up, where they need to be taking it, what happens if there's a problem, right? I convey all this context and this judgment. Well, after a month of this happening, Will there be questions? Maybe someone might come to me and say, "Hey, where's the trash bags? I couldn't find them after I redid it." Oh, I forgot to tell you that part, right? And so we give them more context, more context. But after a month, if it's successful, it's happening every day, it comes down to, "Hey, I want to let you know you're totally in charge of this from now on. I'm not going to be reminding you about it. I want you to own this. This is your section to own to make sure it's done every day and for it to be successful. Do you have any other questions before we hand this off to you?" And they're going to say, "Nope, got it. It's trash," right? We use trash because it's an easy example.
Yeah, it's easy. Yeah.
But that's the point where it's like, now they totally own it. If they run out of trash bags, they're gonna go and put it on the order list. They're gonna make sure they're refilled. They're gonna make sure it's done by 10 AM. But if I just say, "Can you take out the trash?" I guarantee you, I'm gonna be disappointed in the way that it happens,
Mm,
right? Because we didn't convey the context. And so it's that understanding how to convey the context is actually the bridge we build to get from task leverage to talent leverage. And the painful part about that is it takes time. When I said, "Take
I
out the
was thinking
trash."
that even just
Yeah.
going through that, I'm like, "Oh my god.
Oh, it's painful, right? It's like, "Oh, you're
Oh, this is
kidding." When
painful."
I said, "Take out the trash," it was like, boom, 5 seconds, done. But when I had to convey the context of what it looks like when we win, the desired outcome, why we do it, it's like, man, that took like 3 times as long as just saying it the first time. And it does, but it takes more energy in the front end, but it drops off quickly,
Right.
and then it doesn't take any energy. Instead of us constantly having to say, "Hey, it's 10:30, can you take the trash out? Hey, it's 10:30, can you take the trash out? Hey, it's 10:30, can you take the trash out?" And they come back and say, "Well, we're out of trash bags, what do I do?" And it's like, "Shouldn't you be able to handle this?" Right? And that's where so many business owners get stuck because they live in that first phase, and they're just constantly managing the process and the system, but letting somebody else execute instead of building that bridge to get to the 3rd level where someone owns the outcome and the out and the path to it.
That is so good. If anyone else is listening to this like I am and going, "Oh my gosh, I've gotta do better."
Yeah, right?
I'm with
Also,
you.
turns out works with family members at home, especially with taking out the
Yeah,
trash,
I'm
right?
gonna say it
It's
works with kids and stuff too, I'm sure, like
right?
yeah.
Yeah, conveys.
Yeah, and having that patience, to me, that's where I think that's where I personally lack is the patience of like, well, shouldn't they just figure that out? Like,
Shouldn't they just
hello,
know
that
it?
this
Yeah.
common sense. You don't want stinky garbage. Like when you said it to me, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Like I would have, that
Well,
just
it's
makes sense.
we have to learn a new skill at this point because an entrepreneur by nature, that what makes them successful is like they're gonna go, right? Entrepreneurs get up in the morning and they go. They're hunting the next deal. They're building something, right? Like we drive things forward. It's part of our natural being of who we are and why we became successful
Mhm.
and found ourselves in this in the first place. So we have to learn a new skill entirely at this point, and that's slowing down with restraint, right? To slow down and not just do it ourselves and to convey that context that's always been in our head where we know exactly why we do everything. It's challenging because it takes that restraint, which is something we've never had to develop. And you even said it just now, and this is a common thing I hear entrepreneurs say. It's like, well, I figured it out. Why can't they?
Right.
And the reality is nobody joins our business so that they can figure out things for themselves. They join our businesses and they partner with us in our businesses because they believe that by doing such, they'll achieve their goals quicker and easier. If they wanted to figure it out for themselves, they would have went and started their own business. And so it's
Mhm.
up to us to create an ecosystem that people achieve their goals quicker and easier. Because here's what I'll tell you, Angela, is that people don't wanna suck at their job. No one wants to show up every day and disappoint the boss, right?
Mm,
No one's like, "Man, I can't wait to show up and be mediocre today and get by doing the bare minimum." They wanna feel successful and feel fulfilled.
mm,
But if they're constantly being micromanaged with, "Take out the trash today, take out the trash, take out the trash, take out the trash," instead of being empowered to
mm,
own the outcome of how the trash gets done and everything that is associated with it, where they no
mm,
longer have to be told daily, that becomes a weight on them, and this is when people start to leave for things like fit, just looking for a new opportunity,
mm.
just found something they felt was more in alignment, because talented people who wanna be fulfilled don't like to live in that task leverage phase. They wanna grow into the 2nd or the 3rd and the 4th phase, right? They wanna develop.
Okay, so here's a question. um, if I'm thinking it, there's other listening thinking it. So you have someone you're trying to empower them, and yet you still have, say, as an entrepreneur, whatever business owner, you have some quote rules. like for instance, it has to be out by 10. Now that person decides, takes some ownership, and for some reason, not that it necessarily can't like they figure out a different thing than what you thought. And they kind of do it differently. At what point and how do you work on this? Not being like, hey, this was our rule, this is what we decided on, this is what we said, and like empowering them to like, okay, just do your own thing. And even if you're not listening to what I told you to do, at where's that line?
So, right, we give bumpers, boundaries, so to say, right? I think of
Right.
this like bowling, like we want to have the bumpers so they stay in the lane in the beginning, but
Mhm.
understand that everyone's going to put their own spin on anything. They might tie the bag differently than you, right? They might,
Mhm.
take it out at
Order from a different
9:30.
company.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like
Um,
things are going to change. And
right.
that's really hard because our little
Yes.
control cave that we live in is like, don't do that. I do it this way for a reason.
Right.
We have to have restraint, but we have to step back and we have to kind of investigate their thought processes to understand why they did that. So we might say something like, "Hey, I noticed you ordered different trash bags this time. What was it that made you do that?" If they say, "Oh, well, I didn't know there was a specific trash bag we ordered." Okay, great. I missed the context, so I need to convey it. But if they say, "Actually, I was looking at it and the trash bags you've been ordering are the wrong size and they're about 20% more. And I found them on this other company for the right size that seemed to be just as durable for 20% less, so I figured I'd give them a try." Okay, great. It's amazing the thought processes when people are empowered and they have good context that they actually improve
Mm,
what we built frequently. It's really hard for us to accept because we think we're the best at everything, but the
mhm,
reality is we're usually really good at 1 or 2 things, and we're pretty
mm.
mediocre at the rest of them. And so people
What?
who yeah, I know, right?
I'm not good at that
People
right
who
there.
are the right people for the types of roles that we hire, they'll do a better job than we will at a lot of things, and
Mm,
when I investigate the thought processes and they're showing me, "Okay, this was a smart decision, I understand their context. It's different than I would have done it, but it's not wrong. It's still right. And it accomplishes the goal or even accomplishes more than what our initial goal was." It's like, okay, did it great. This is we let them do it. But you don't give them a mile at, the beginning. It's you have boundaries, you have bumpers, and it's they stay within it. And yeah, they have a little bit of freedom within there. And then you widen those as you understand that they know the context, they know what we're looking for, they know what a win is, and they'll show you that their judgment is correct over time. And when it's not correct, we coach to it to bump it back into line and we reestablish the boundary. But when it's correct, each time it's correct, we loosen the reins just a little bit more,
At
and it's
what point
hard.
yeah, at what point do you okay, so now you've said a month in, you're like, "This is your job. This is you. You take full responsibility," and you see things falling apart. At what point do you step back in and say, "Your responsibility is taken away from you," but maybe not those words, but you know the general gist, and your job is on the line. Um, I don't know, what do you coach on that?
I think one of the things that we tend to do as leaders is kind of assume problems will correct themselves. And most people are not really comfortable with confrontation, right? And they
No.
look at this like, this is a bad thing if I have to come to you and say, "Hey, you didn't take the trash out yesterday." So they kind of just, "Oh, I can't believe they didn't take the trash out. I'll just go do it myself." And right, they pick up the slack, right? And a lot of owners do this. We pick up the slack. And then
Always.
the next day they don't take the trash out. So this does 2 bad things, and I'll
Mhm.
get to answering the question in a second.
Yeah.
1, it trains them that we'll always pick up the slack
Mm.
subconsciously, right? It subconsciously trains them
Ugh,
that we'll pick up the slack.
feel like you're
But
talking to me.
2, it also trains them that we're not gonna talk to them about it and that they can hide. And
Mm.
so now it's, "Well, Angela does it anyways. I guess she wants to do it. I was only 5 minutes late that day on doing it, but she's been doing it ever since, so I just stopped." Right? Like, slowly that happened. And so the answer is 1, get really comfortable having uncomfortable conversations and just addressing things head on. Because the first time somebody forgets to take the trash out, when I say, "Hey, I noticed that the trash didn't get taken out. Something happened?" That's not a hard conversation. That's just a, "Hey, did something happen?" They go, "Oh my gosh, I completely forgot. I got this text message from my mom and her dog was sick and I'm so sorry. I will get it." And it readjusts them back on track, right? And if it happens again the second time, it's, "Hey, I saw the trash didn't get taken out again today. This is important. Do we need to go back over the processes by which we need to stick to and why on there? Did you have any questions? Is there a reason it didn't happen?" If it happens a third time, like think third day in a row, it's this is an important aspect of your job and we've had the conversation twice. If we're not able to fulfill these things, we may need to look at other opportunities or other options for you, right? If we address it the first time, it'll almost always get corrected. The challenge is because so many entrepreneurs don't know how to address that first question, which I give tons of examples how to address that the easy way in the book. Is if we don't know how to address those things, we let it linger. And then it's like 3 months in, we're super aggravated that the trash hasn't been taken out and that we're doing it, or we had to assign it to somebody else. And we start looking at that person, we're like, they don't even do their job. Like, I've gotten so much of their job back. Like,
Why?
now I have a big problem. Now they're literally not performing and I'm paying them, right? But that's usually because we don't nudge them back in. And so it's address it quickly because when it lingers, that's when it becomes a big problem. But if we address it quickly, again, most people don't want to fail at their job. And if they continue to fail at their job, get rid of them. You hired a bad person and you got a bad seed, right? Like that happens, but that's not the vast majority of people. The vast majority of people fail in their roles because of the way we lead them.
Hmm. Feel like you're talking to me. I'm like, oh boy, I need to work on this.
Like, as I said, it's super not unique, right? Like, it's really not. It's all of us struggle with this, and the reason why is most people never got formal leadership training before they became an entrepreneur. We became entrepreneurs because we were really good at something, we were passionate, we wanted to bring it to the world, and then we, by proxy of being really good at that, found ourselves now building a full-blown business, and it's like, "Oh, well, now what? What do I
Yeah, I
do
didn't sign up for
now?"
this. Where did this
Right? Yeah.
come
Yeah,
from?
like, I don't know how to do this part, and we think just because it's our business, we should naturally just that comes, and it doesn't. It is trained, it is learned, it's a skill set, and most people just never were brought that before they found themselves in a business.
That's cool. I love that. This is very great. And guys, the book is coming out. Tell us a little bit about the book, Liz, and when it's coming out.
Yeah, the book actually starts shipping on October 20th, so I'm very excited about that. It's coming out this year. We're also doing the early edition audio with all pre-sales because I know entrepreneurs. One, you guys want to listen to it in your car on your way to your next appointment, right? Picking the kids up at school. Two, people need it in their hands or their ears today. And so waiting for a book to actually print isn't always the best option. And so it is coming out in October, but if you buy it on pre-sale, anytime leading up to that, you get the early edition audiobook same day when you buy it off of our website, which will give you that information. Now, the book takes you through those 4 levels and those 4 phases, but we deal with 2 things in each one of those 4 phases. And what we're dealing with is our identity of who we are as the leader of this business and the tactical and practical ways we actually do these small things to develop people through those phases. And I don't know if Angela, you're anything like me when you've probably read leadership books in the past where you read it and you feel really inspired, but you leave and you're like, well, but like, what do I actually do? Okay, be a better leader, but how do I do that? Where's the playbook? And so I take a very practical approach to things. And when I wrote the book, I wrote it for that very practical type of side of things so that people can actually take things out of the book, institute the activities, use the phrases, learn those different things, all while they're transitioning their identity to really be the owner of the business. And so I really like that aspect of it, that it's practical, it's not theoretical. I'm tired of theoretical leadership books, right? We need something that says, "Do this." Great. Thank you. That's what I
You
need.
do. Yeah, we're good at that. We're good at following
Yeah.
orders. Yeah. That's awesome. When you touch a little bit on the personal side, now you've been an entrepreneur, you're running your consultant business, all this stuff. Was your family an entrepreneur or where did that come from? And if not, how did that go about whenever you transitioned and did all the things? How was it, appreciated, liked, supported with those closest to you?
You know, my family, as in parents and growing up and that, no, I didn't really grow up in a super entrepreneurial environment, truthfully, right? A lot of people who become entrepreneurs do. I didn't. It just wasn't that type of an environment. And I went to school, didn't go to school for anything particularly on that. But remember those teenage years where I said like stubborn, I wanted freedom. I've always been very stubborn and wanted to do things my own way, and so I've always kind of challenged the status quo of why things happen. I remember when we would do standardized testing in elementary school, I'm like, "I don't understand why we actually have to do this. Like, but why? I have straight A's, like, we're fine. Why do I have to take this test? Like, what's the point behind this? Like, I always questioned things like that. I always kind of went against the status quo, and what I found is when I got into college, I love learning. I love learning, I love reading, I love learning things. I don't really enjoy the structure of school so much, right? I looked at it, I'm like, "I'm an adult. Why do you keep attendance in college? I don't understand why this is happening." And so I've always kind of been contrarian on a lot of the regular infrastructure, and to accomplish what I wanted to accomplish and to do things the way I wanted to do them, other people's environments and corporate environments just simply weren't fitting my shell that I needed them to fit. And that kind of led me into entrepreneurialism, and I kind of found our little ragtag rogue group of entrepreneurs in the world. And it's like, oh, they're all like me, right? And what do we love? We love to be around people like us who think like us and to challenge things like us. And so I kind of really sunk into early on like this little contrarian entrepreneurial environment. And I was like, hey, like this feels more like home than that did. And so that's really what's it kept me in it since then, and it's been, yeah, 20 years that I've been doing that now.
That's very cool. And did a lot of people question what you were doing when you first started into entrepreneurship? Like, "What
Everybody
are you doing?"
absolutely thought I was insane. I can't even tell you how many times I had conversations with my father, and he's like, "I just don't understand why you don't get a good 9 to 5 job with, a
Good
pension and
pension.
these kinds of things," and I'm like, "I can think of nothing worse," like, it's
Lots of reasons.
Eh yeah, yeah, like, I could yeah, yeah, I was like, "I can think of nothing worse than doing that," right? And yeah, like, people definitely question it when they're not from that environment. They think it's a little strange, and, everyone's got their own path that fits them, though, so I try not to give too much judgment when people ask me the questions, but at this point, 20 years, they've accepted it, right, at this point, but
Yes.
in the beginning, the first 10 and 12 years.
Oh, well, that makes sense. Well, good job pushing through it and learning
Thank
and
you.
growing anyway. I love that. Guys, make sure to check out Liz's book. All that information for the Audible, all that stuff will be in the show notes. So definitely check that out. Liz's information. Also, if you want to reach out to her for any consulting, that kind of thing, definitely reach out. In wrapping up, I always have three final questions and then anything we didn't touch on that you think would be really impactful for our listeners. So first and final question is if someone's looking for their purpose, what's one sentence you would say that could help them find it?
You are best positioned to help the person you once were. We all have struggled with things, and it typically ends up that when we find our footing, we look back historically and we're helping the person that we once were, right? Like, I literally have dedicated my entire career to helping the person I once was. And the irony of that is I didn't figure that out until 3 years ago when somebody told me that exact sentence. And I laughed out loud. I was like, oh, he's right. And what I have learned since then with most entrepreneurs and most people looking for their purpose and things is you're best positioned to help the person you once were. So
Mhm.
look at who you were, where you were struggling the most, and look there first.
That's good. I like that. Second one, and it might tie into this, the one you actually just kind of said, because it's what's your favorite quote and why, or a favorite quote?
Good question. I mentioned one earlier, and so favorite quote is, "Some of us learn from other people's mistakes, and some of us are the other people."
Mm,
And once it sits with you for a second, you're like, oh, and really it's some of us are the ones that make the mistakes, right? And some of us are gonna learn the hard way, like, we're gonna go through, we're gonna make all the mistakes, and, my encouragement would be the smart person and learn from other people's mistakes because none of this is unique. Other people have been there, they've done it before you, they've made the mistakes, they've learned the lessons, they've written the books, they've hosted the classes, they've done the podcasts, right? Like the information is out there to help you cut the pain scale and the learning curve way down. So learn from other people's mistakes.
good one. Third and final question. What's one word or sentence you want on your gravestone?
Huh. Hmm. I've never been asked that question before.
Most people
Let's
haven't.
see. One word or sentence I would want on my gravestone. Can I pet your dog?
That's so funny. I love that. That's awesome.
'Cause I will pet any dog that walks by me. It can be snarling, drooling, scariest looking thing ever. I'm like, "Can I pet your dog?"
I love that. You have a couple dogs too, right?
I do. I have a
Yes,
couple, yeah.
good, good. You need them. If you like them that much, you gotta have them. All right, you run into someone in a coffee shop and they've listened to this and they're learning lots. What's something though we didn't touch on that you think would be really impactful to leave our listeners with?
I think we all underestimate that those early days, it is more challenging than we think it's going to be. You know you've got a great thing, you know you've got a great product, a great podcast, a great class, a great service, something. We all know it's great. But we all underestimate how many people are going to want to take part in that and what that looks like. And don't give up on it, keep going because it is an exponential growth curve. It's like this for a long time before it goes like this. And so it's time on task over time. Don't give up in the beginning just because it's hard.
So good. Guys, make sure to share this. I know there's lots of people that can use this information, so make sure to share it. If we can go out there, if we can help one person or one starfish at a time together, we can help change the world. Thanks for being on, Liz.
Right. Thank you so much.